First of all, how financially challenging has coronavirus been to Barnsley Football Club?
Yeah, it's been extremely challenging. I think not just for Barnsley Football Club, but the entirety of the EFL Premier League as well. Kind of a sight unseen in a world we didn't really ever expect or plan for, and so it's been very difficult to navigate the waves that have come.
Have you got a financial figure on exactly how damaging this has been? I mean, is it a seven-figure sum that we're talking about here financially for clubs
You
such as
know,
Barnsley?
we have ballpark figures. It changes just because of the variance in what we're trying to do each day. It hasn't gotten to a seven-figure basis yet, which is thankfully a good thing for us, and I think anybody. But it is put us in a place where we have to strategize and figure a way out, and to make up for the three almost going on 3.5, 4 months of lost revenue.
Playing behind closed doors is obviously the only way that this season could finish. But how sustainable is that? Because it seems like this isn't something that by the end of July, everything's going to be okay and we can start next season with fans coming in again. So how sustainable is playing behind closed doors, do you think?
Yeah, sustainability, it's a tough one. I mean, I think to get the games played, it was the necessary step. We always said from the beginning, we felt when it was the environment was safe for the players and the staff involved, that the game should be played. Now, long term, games behind closed doors, how does that affect the pyramid? I think it greatly affects it. I think you're going to see teams in League One and League Two that are going to have a tough time starting up or continuing into a season without fans, and that's been readily apparent from the start. So I think it has again an immense impact on where we go from here and the outlook of what the seasons in the lower leagues look like, but even the championship. Where is the light at the end of the tunnel, and how do we get fans back in and start to generate revenue like we would have in the past?
The club has sent a letter to the EFL expressing concern over the inability of governance to hold its members accountable. Can you tell us a bit about the club's position on this matter, which seems to be involving the clubs who have unresolved EFL charges?
Yeah, the club has had issues with EFL governance in terms of the time frame in which they're enforcing their penalties on teams that are charged. This dates back to before I was even here, and the last time the team was in the championship, where Bolton had been charged, and we fell short of survival to Bolton, and then they were charged later, and everything came out that we would have probably stayed up if a penalty had been enforced in time. And this year you have several clubs where they have received charges, but yet to have received a penalty in the season, and we just feel that the parameters in which the charges and the time frame in which the penalty is laid out are two different scales, and it doesn't really help for I guess the sanctity of the pyramid and the integrity of the sport.
There is only a few games to go. I mean, this season is going to restart and then be wrapped up as quickly as possible to get it in. Do you have any idea of when a resolution is likely from these two charges, and is it likely to come into place before the end of this season?
I don't know, and I don't think it's my place currently to know. I think it's the club, our ownership, and our executives' place to ask the question and make sure that this is going to be dealt with in a timely manner. We don't have any idea or timescale in which anything would be brought forward. So we're basically at the behest of EFL governance and when they are going to move forward.
I believe that it's been suggested, I think by Paul Conway, that if, depending on what the outcome of this is, there could be some legal action taken. I mean, is that how serious it could be?
Yeah, I think Paul has made it clear, and the stance of the club has made it clear that we'll reserve our rights with however this plays out, and not only this season but also the last time we were in the championship, and how they were dealt with. Bolton was dealt with in what seemed like for in sporting reasons an untimely manner.
Having come into English football and having had some time now to work your way through it, do you think that it has integrity?
Yes, I do. I think, listen, you could go to any league in the world and you can find issues and problems with governance, with the way financial fair play is implemented, with where I came from in the MLS, with restrictions on squad size and salary caps. You can nitpick any league that has issues. I think what's been obvious to me and right in front of me is that in the EFL, because it's an open market and because everything is dependent on the working relationship between the members of the EFL, the Premier League, and the governance of each and the FA, sometimes it's almost too big and there's not enough oversight, and there's not enough independent ideals or counsel on how things should be done or how they could be governed in a better way. And that's kind of what the crux of our argument is who is making these decisions, why, and why is there not more of an independent basis for those decisions.
Final question on the EFL. Gerhard Struber called decision regarding relegation brainless. Do you agree with what they decided last week, and in terms of teams being able to be relegated despite the situation of not being able to play games?
Yeah, I think exactly that Gerhard was alluding to, League One and League Two, and those divisions that weren't able to finish their season, and those teams are still relegated. I think he feels it's unjust, and I think a lot of people in the game feel it's unfair. One thing I also think he was touching on is, these teams, even from the Championship or Premier League, that are relegated down into League One, League Two, the Championship. When will some of these leagues restart? Will they be able to restart? And those clubs that are able to play that are relegated, will they be penalized and lose further revenue because those seasons can't start on time? These are all questions left unanswered. And I think Gerhard, coming from Austria and from Germany, where everything is very much matter of fact and in line, it's hard for him sometimes to wrap his head around it.
How difficult is your job at the moment? Because this is usually a time when you would be building for next season. You'd know which league you were going to be in. You'd be talking to players about contracts and bringing new players in, maybe moving some out. Instead, you've got to finish the season, and some of that is going on at the same time, and you don't know what league you're going to be in. So how tough is this challenge for you?
Right, it's very difficult. I think it's difficult for everyone. There's so many things left in the balance on the business side and keeping our clubs functioning and moving forward, that lost in the shuffle is what's going on with player trading, what's going to happen with the transfer window. That's a big part of our business and our model is player trading, building players, allowing them to move on, and then bringing in new, young, exciting players into the fold. And we're unable to do that at this moment. We're still working towards it. We have a plan set forth, and we have, what we want to do is laid out before us, but we can't action those things because we're kind of stuck in limbo, and it's very difficult. It's time consuming to figure out everything that's going on with the leagues, and again, on the business side, and that can take away from, what we want to do on the sporting side with our squad.
How much time are you spending on worst case scenarios, just so that you're prepared for those? And if it doesn't end up coming to the fore, at least you've planned for it.
Yeah, we have built out 2 or 3 models, and it plans and prepares for each eventuality. So if we hadn't done that, I don't think we'd be doing our job. We started that pretty early on, and in each one of them has its hurdles, because, like you mentioned before, this is a time that no one really foresaw, and you have to completely re-strategize and figure out what your true north is.
This is it may even be a difficult question to answer, but I've not had a chance to ask it you before, or the owners. What is the long-term plan of this ownership group? Where do they want Barnsley to be? It has been a team that has gone from League One to the Championship to League One to the Championship. What is the long-term vision for this ownership group?
Yeah, the long-term vision is to remain competitive and consistently in the Championship. We're trying to build the club in a way and build ourselves up in a way that's financially responsible, which is difficult at times given what our competitors are able to do and the money they're able to put into their team. But the long term is to remain stationed in the Championship and compete. and hopefully at one point make our way towards a playoff spot and compete for possible chance of promotion. Yo-yoing between League One and League Two, or League One and the Championship is not sustainable, and it's not the vision of our ownership.
Will it be particularly disappointing then, having done so well to get into the Championship, if you do indeed go back down at the first attempt?
Yeah, extremely. And I said this last week, that in no way, shape, or form can you call it anything else but a failure if we are relegated. And we have 9 games to fight for it. And I think our staff and our players are geared up and have a positive momentum that I haven't really seen this year going into this. But yes, we want to stay in the Championship, and anything else would be deemed a failure.
Well, speaking to fans this week, one of the most interesting things learning from all of this about fans not being able to go to the games is how much their social lives are impacted by football. It's not just a game, it's meeting friends and family, it's going for a beer, having something to eat after a game, and people planning their weekends around football. How much do you think this could impact supporters not being able to go and watch the Reds in this case, but any team in the country?
I think it impacts everyone, supporters, staff, personnel alike. Our worlds are completely different than they were 3 months ago. Contact with family, with friends, your normal social life has been, turned on its end. And I believe that unless we get back to some sustainability of normalcy, where fans are back in the stadium and we're able to provide the entertainment value and the outlet that these clubs and these football teams are there for, it's going to be tough on everyone. And there's really no getting around it. It is mentally taxing, psychologically. It's something that I don't think any of us really were prepared for. But I will say that just the idea of football coming back today and this weekend has to lift everyone's spirits, because at least we're making steps towards getting back to what we know and love.
Final question. One member of staff has tested positive for coronavirus, and this is a challenge that all clubs are facing. How difficult has that been to organise and arrange? And the other thing is, there's been another round of testing results published today. I think 8 individuals at 6 different clubs have tested positive. Have Barnsley had any further positive tests, as you're aware?
No, we've had the one case, and it caught us all off guard because our protocols and our systems in place were pretty spotless. I have to commend our staff and our players and the whole team around them in implementing what we thought was a perfect system, as perfect as it could be. We had an asymptomatic positive test that caught us off guard, but they self-isolated. We haven't had another positive test since. And yeah, I just saw the release of 8 individuals at 6 clubs, which it's, in the grand scheme of things, sounds like a small number, but anyone positive, poses a threat to the greater good, and everyone, including the EFL and its members, have to take that into account.
Dane, thank you for your time. Much appreciated.
Thanks, Rob.